What happens when two seasoned music powerhouses, each with decades of experience and their own creative journeys, collide over what real artistry and respect truly mean? That's exactly what unfolded when Morris Day sat down with Jennifer Hudson on her talk show, an interview that shifted from cordial to combustible in a matter of minutes. The tension grew so thick you could almost feel it through the screen, and by the end, one of them walked off in sheer frustration. It all began like any ordinary segment. Jennifer, warm and welcoming, greeted Morris with genuine admiration, telling him she had grown up listening to his music with her parents. Morris leaned back in his flashy jacket, offering a sly smile as he thanked her. But his comment about appreciating real music, the kind that actually means something, carried a bite that didn't go unnoticed. Jennifer pushed past the jab and shifted to his latest project, asking about his creative process. Morris immediately lit up, passionately explaining how authenticity was the heart of his work, and lamenting that today's music relied too heavily on machines and computers. Jennifer nodded politely, though her smile tightened. She agreed that traditional music took skill, but defended modern artists and their innovations. Morris smirked at her response, repeating the word tools with disdain. He insisted that music was about raw, unfiltered talent, something you either have or you don't. The audience chuckled anxiously, sensing the shift. Jennifer tried to redirect the conversation toward his tour, but Maurice clearly wasn't finished. Leaning forward, he asked whether reality show winners truly had what it took to create music that would last. The implication landed hard. Jennifer had launched her career on American Idol. Her posture stiffened. Carefully, she responded that talent shows were simply one path, and that real success came from hard work and growth. But Morris wasn't backing down. He drew a sharp line between organic artistry, forged through years of grinding in clubs, and what he called manufactured success, produced by industry machines. Silence settled over the room as Jennifer's jaw tightened. She challenged him directly, asking if he was calling competition show artists illegitimate. Morris replied coolly that he wasn't suggesting it, he was stating it. Jennifer leaned in, her voice sharper now, asking if he believed she wasn't a real artist because of where she started. Morris shrugged, unfazed, and pressed further. He questioned how many songs she had written before Idol, how many instruments she could play, and how many years she had spent performing in small clubs. The fire in Jennifer's eyes finally surfaced. She argued that he was confusing opportunity with talent, and that everything she had achieved since, every award, every performance, every role, came from her own relentless work and determination. Morris cut her off with a chuckle, suggesting her success came from an industry machine ready to boost her, with deals, promotions, and connections handed to her. And in that moment, the atmosphere inside the studio snapped, the polite veneer completely shattered. The audience shifted uncomfortably, watching two legends collide over what it truly means to earn a place in music history. Jennifer's voice rose firm, trembling with heat as she declared that Morris was being incredibly disrespectful. She reminded him that she had worked for everything she'd achieved, from her Oscar to her Grammys, each one earned through talent and dedication. Morris leaned back and waved a dismissive hand, brushing her words aside like a fly. Awards didn't mean much anymore, he said. They were handed out like participation trophies. Back in his day, he added, you had to bleed for recognition. The remark cut deep, and Jennifer's eyes narrowed in anger. Participation trophies. She couldn't believe he was seriously questioning her legitimacy across music, film, and television, after proving herself time and time again. Multiple fields. Morris repeated, dripping with mockery. That, he insisted, was the real issue. Real artists stayed married to their craft. They didn't scatter themselves thin, chasing every spotlight. Jennifer practically lurched forward in her seat, demanding to know why versatility and growth were suddenly crimes. Why exploring different mediums and challenging herself was somehow a flaw. Morris didn't flinch. His calmness only fueled the tension. It wasn't a crime. He said it was simply the difference between someone who lived for music and someone who used it as a stepping stone. The audience went silent, the air suffocating as Jennifer gripped her chair so tightly her knuckles whitened. You know what, Morris? She snapped. She had shown him nothing but respect, and in return he'd insulted her, dismissed her career, and belittled her achievements. Morris coolly claimed he hadn't insulted anyone. He was just telling the truth about real artistry. There was a difference between entertainment and authenticity, he said, and too many people today didn't know it. Jennifer's voice shook. Not from weakness, but from fury barely held in place. His perspective wasn't truth, she told him. It was outdated and bitter. He couldn't stand that people found success differently now, so he tried to tear her down. Why? Because it threatened the way he defined himself. For the first time, Morris's mask slipped, his eyebrows rising, threatened by a reality show contestant. Don't flatter yourself, sweetheart. The word hit like a slap. Jennifer's composure shattered. She shot to her feet, her voice slicing through the studio as she warned him never to call her sweetheart. She was a professional, the host of the show, not some little girl he could patronize. The crowd gasped. Even Morris seemed thrown by her intensity, though his smirk returned just as quickly. He told her to calm down, claiming he was only being friendly. Jennifer laughed sharply, humorless, friendly. He had spent 10 minutes questioning her talent, dismissing her awards, and insulting her path hand. Now that was supposed to be friendly. No, she said. That was pure disrespect. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every twitch on their faces. Morris shifted slightly, but kept his voice icy. He was being honest about the state of music, he insisted. If she couldn't handle a real conversation with a real musician, maybe she shouldn't be hosting interviews. Jennifer's voice spiked back. Was he suggesting she wasn't a real musician? She reminded him of her achievements. Millions of records sold, performances with legends, honors from every major institution. But Morris cut her off with that same dismissive wave. Selling records didn't make her a musician. Having the industry behind her didn't make her an artist. Being on the right show at the right time didn't mean she'd paid her dues. Jennifer planted both hands on her desk, standing firm now. She'd had enough. He came as her guest to share his story, she said, but instead he insulted everything she'd built. What gave him the right? Morris laughed, low and cold. The right? Try 40 years in the business. Try being part of a band that changed a generation. Try creating something original instead of singing covers on TV for votes. That gave him the right. The line hit hard. Everyone knew Jennifer got her start on covers, and Morris knew exactly how to twist the knife. Her face flushed as her voice rose like fire. Originality. Jennifer didn't hesitate. She leaned in and said, "Let's talk about that. How many of your biggest hits came from Prince's pen, Maurice? How much of your career was writing his genius instead of your own?" The studio erupted. For the first time all night, Morris was speechless, his expression frozen. The name Prince hit him like a hammer. His composure cracked, his voice sharpening as he snapped back that he and Prince were collaborators, partners, who revolutionized music together. Jennifer's eyes blazed. Collaborators, she repeated. From where I'm sitting, Prince wrote your songs, produced your albums, and built your entire image. So if we're talking about manufactured success, about writing someone else's talent, you might want to look in the mirror. That did it. Morris shot to his feet, his chair skidding behind him. He barked that she had no idea what she was talking about. He and Prince came up together, shaped a sound, defined a generation. Asterisk, oh. I respect that, Jennifer replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. But don't you think it's a little hypocritical to lecture me about authenticity? When your biggest claim to fame is being tethered to someone else's genius. Morris's face flushed red as he insisted it was completely different. He had built something from scratch with Prince like her, who had won a singing contest and been handed a career. Asterisk Jennifer let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Handed to me. Do you think American Idol was easy? Do you think years of training, grueling performances, competing against the most talented voices in the country that was handed to me? Morris snapped back without hesitation. She sang songs that were already hits in front of judges looking for the next marketable face. That wasn't artistry, he said. That was auditioning, asterisk. The words hit like a slap. Even the camera crew shifted uncomfortably. Off to the side, Jennifer's producer waved frantically, unsure how to salvage the broadcast. Jennifer lowered her voice, and it turned dangerous. She reminded Morris that she had invited him on the show to celebrate his music, to give him a platform, yet he'd spent the entire interview tearing her down. Morris crossed his arms and insisted he was simply telling the truth. There was earned success and manufactured success. If that made her uncomfortable, he said, maybe she should ask herself why. Jennifer's composure finally snapped. She slammed her hand on the desk and told him what made her uncomfortable was having a guest disrespect her on her own stage. What made her uncomfortable was hearing someone who benefited from Prince's brilliance lecture her about authenticity. Morris's face darkened. His voice turned to ice as he warned her not to ever question his relationship with Prince. She wasn't there, he said. She had no right to judge his journey or his talent. Jennifer fired back instantly. The difference between us, Maurice, is that I don't need to tear other artists down to validate myself. Morris stepped closer to the desk, looming over her. He declared that he had earned his place in history through decades of innovation and creativity, while she got famous singing other people's songs on national television. The studio went silent. Everyone felt the line snap. Jennifer stared at him, her expression a mix of fury and disbelief. She reminded him she'd achieved things most artists only dreamed of through sheer talent, grit, and real work. Morris smirked, casually dismissing her with a quiet, "If you say so." That lit the fuse. Jennifer's voice erupted, shaking the studio walls as she laid out exactly why she had every right to say so. She had proven herself on Broadway, in films, on world tours, and in every recording studio she'd stepped into. Every single part of her career was earned. Morris rolled his eyes, fatal mistake. Jennifer snapped back that, yes, she would continue to list her resume because, unlike him, she didn't need to cling to the past or tear down others to justify her worth. Her resume spoke loud enough, and if that threatened him, that was his problem. Morris laughed low, bitter. He claimed her resume wasn't tea-earned. It was written by TV producers and executives chasing money. His, he said, was written by audiences who experienced something real. Jennifer's voice rose to nearly a shout as she threw his own word back at him. He wanted Real. Real was standing on that Idol stage week after week, pouring her heart into every note while millions judged her. Real was fighting for every break, every vote, every chance. Her voice cracked, but it wasn't weakness. It was emotion sharpened into fire. She pressed on, declaring that she had turned that opportunity into a career across industries. Real was earning an Oscar for her first movie role because she brought something authentic to that performance, and the studio sat in stunned silence. Every eye locked on the storm unfolding in front of them. Morris shook his head with a scoff. Please, Anyone can cry on cue and walk away with an Oscar these days. Standards aren't what they used to be. That was it. Jennifer's fury crystallized instantly. Her voice cut like glass as she said, "Get out." Morris blinked, stunned. "What?" She repeated herself, firmer this time. "I said, get out." She pointed toward the exit, her hand trembling but unyielding. "This interview is over. I will not sit here and let you demean me, my work, or my achievements for another second." The studio fell into stunned silence. Morris looked around as if searching for backup. "You're serious? You're throwing me out because I told the truth about this industry?" Jennifer steadied her voice. "No, I'm throwing you out because you've been nothing but insulting and cruel. This was supposed to be about your music. Instead, you made it about attacking me." Morris gathered his things slowly, almost theatrically. Typical. Young artists today can't handle real talk. Everything has to be sugar-coated. Jennifer's disbelief broke through as her voice rose. "Criticism. You call this criticism? You've been taking cheap shots since the second you sat down. That's not honesty, Maurice. That's cruelty." He straightened his jacket, chin high. "Cruel, no honest. And if you can't stomach honesty about your career, maybe you're in the wrong business." Jennifer's voice snapped back sharply. "Don't you dare tell me where I belong. I earned my place here through talent, through work, through dedication. Maybe if you spent less time clinging to the past, you'd recognize the present." Morris started toward the exit, but paused for one final jab. "The present is the problem, Jennifer. A parade of manufactured stars pretending contest wins make them real artists. The present has forgotten what music used to sound like." Jennifer called for security, though Morris was already striding out. "Don't bother," he tossed over his shoulder. "I'm leaving. But remember this, when the TV lights fade and the marketing campaigns dry up, real artistry is what lasts. Some of us will still be standing when the manufactured stars disappear." With that, Morris walked off set, leaving Jennifer trembling behind her desk. The audience sat frozen in uneasy silence. Jennifer inhaled sharply, steadying herself beneath the weight of the still-rolling cameras. She forced a professional smile, though her hands betrayed the adrenaline shaking through her. "Well," she managed, her voice unsteady but resolute. "That's one way to end an interview." Turning to the lens, she addressed the viewers directly. "To our audience, I apologize. That is not the kind of conversation I intended to have tonight. It certainly wasn't the respectful dialogue our guests and you deserve." Her voice softened, but the conviction remained firm. "I believe there is room in this industry for every kind of artist, no matter their path. What matters is the art itself, the connection it makes, the way it touches people. Not where we started, but what we do with the opportunity." She sat back, visibly exhausted, but pushed through. Music is supposed to unite, inspire, lift people up. What just happened here was the opposite of that. Jennifer looked into the camera one final time, eyes fierce despite the strain. "We can debate the industry. We can disagree on process. But we don't have to tear each other down to make a point. There's space in music for all of us." The tension in the studio was electric. Two artists, both legends in their own right, had collided with no room for compromise and no bridge of respect. What do you think? Was Morris Day right to call out the industry? Or did he cross the line into personal attack? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more of the explosive, unfiltered moments shaking the music world.